familiar. I think it's the all Anglophone conference in Boya. Yes, I think that's where we from.
We will sit down. I will wait for you to get through before I can see your names.
Christmas Ebini, Christmas, like the holiday.
I'll give you a ring.
Yes, okay.
Yes,
Christmas. Christmas like the holiday, and then Ebini is E-B-I-N-I-E. Let me. This were the one writing on the papers and Cameroon and the front movement and all of that stuff. So. You are not related to Pastor Ndi, are you?
No.
You remember him?
Yes, very
Of Cow Street.
Yes, not only that, yes. Giving talks which...
Okay. Some of this thing will be used anonymously, but some of it too, after what is done, we can talk about. Well, I'm here to discuss with you on your knowledge and your views about 20th May 1972, how it impacts either negatively or positively the tendency of national integration of Cameroon relating to the quest for Southern Cameroon's independence. To begin with, I don't know what would be a working definition for national integration in the Cameroonian context.
I think my views will be as expressed in these two books.
Okay.
National integration, as I have it, if you look at this, what I've written here.
Okay.
National integration through unity in diversity and not in uniformity.
Okay.
That is the stand I take. And that is the stand which I think is backed by history.
Okay.
Because when you talk of Southern Cameroon, and the name I've called here is Southern West Cameroon.
West Cameroon.
You are talking of Southern Cameroon as it was in the time of Nigeria up to 1961.
Okay.
And in this case, I take 1950. When we have the first democratic elections, which give birth to the quasi-federal status of Southern Cameroon with its own House of Assembly, beginning from October 1954 till 1961. Southern Cameroon exists as a state with internal autonomy.
That's within the trusteeship. That's during the trusteeship. Okay.
Not only the trusteeship, but yes, within the trusteeship. It's within the trusteeship, but it has internal self-government, just like a little less than what you have for the other regions in Nigeria at the time.
Okay.
But they are talking of the eastern region, the western region, the northern region. It has a similar status, which comes to fulfillment after October 1961, when Nigeria gets independence. It is of equal status with the other regions in Nigeria. So it is, call it, short of full independence, it has internal independence. Then from 1961 until 1972, it enjoys the same autonomous status, but this time relative to French Cameroon, which now is Republic of Cameroon.
Okay.
And the two states together form what we call the Federal Republic of Cameroon.
Okay.
That is from 1st October 1961 until May 1972, when the federal state, suffers its demise.
Yes, yes.
So I see these two as existing, and we are talking of Anglophones and Francophones. These are people brought up under two very distinct systems. Systems that throughout the ages have never merged. If you are talking of Britain and France, where we get our origins from, or you take the older states, like in Canada, you have Quebec and Ottawa. But these are, they have never mixed up. So I think that maybe I'm saying a lot too much more than what you would.
Yeah, well, take us through the journey.
Yes.
From maybe, let's say, from October 1961, when the reunification occurred effectively, to trace us how did we come to the point where 1972 could even occur?
I think this is a very eventful period because we are talking of the plebiscite, which took place on 11 February 1961. And believe me, yours, the plebiscite takes place at a time when the options given to Southern Cameroonians are terrible options at heart. And if you want to investigate, as you'll find in these books, the Southern Cameroonians wanted independence. Okay. Having enjoyed internal autonomy for 7 years, 1961 was the period at which they should have been looking for independence. But when the time came, Britain laid hurdles, very steep hurdles against that independence, maneuvered the United Nations, maneuvered everybody, and made sure that when it came to the plebiscite, instead of 3 questions, which would have been a choice between secession from Nigeria and reunification with the Republic of Cameroon. Now, they gave these 2, but the real thing Southern Cameroonians wanted was independence, and this was suppressed, suppressed at all levels. And it's a thing which only came out with the declassified the secret papers. Yes, so they suppressed it. And the leaders at the time had no choice. There are 2 options, none of which they favored. You know, as you find the fun of Bafo described it. East Cameroon, French Cameroon at the time was fire. And there was real fire there with terrorism. And Nigeria was water. So there were 2 options, none of which was what the people wanted. And even there was some who called it the French were robbers, the Nigerians, were people who would just think us.
So if I listen to what you're saying now, it will be very evident that your definition of what is national integration might be very different from what the majority Francophone government consider national integration.
I don't know what they consider national integration, because the fear, not the fear, it is a fear really, let me say not a fear, is that the Anglophones see it as their interpretation is absorption, is annexation, is any of these things. which is what, you know, Ahidjo himself, who eventually implemented it, had throughout maintained he didn't want to do, but he ended up doing what, call it the majority francophone. They see Southern Cameroonians as a minority group, as troublemakers. Some even think it is a tribe, but they forget that these are people who have enjoyed autonomy by 1972 for 18 years. Enjoyed self-autonomy for 18 years. You can't take them and then mix them up and see them as, you know, non-entities. These are people you can't, there's no way you can, it's a part of our history.
Yeah. In spite of whatever misgivings we could have about the events leading to the plebiscite of 11 February 1961, I would think, wouldn't you think that there were enough, even if it was not perfect, there were enough safeguards in the 1961 Constitution to be able to give that level of regional autonomy to Southern Cameroon within the federal structure?
That is a beautiful question, and to me, I think there was everything in there. The plebiscite and the Fullman Constitutional Conference, which resulted from it, there was nothing, it was, call it to me, almost without, that was the best option we had.
Yes.
We couldn't have had anything better, given the circumstances in which we found ourselves.
Okay.
The plebiscite was the best thing that happened, and the Fullman Constitutional Conference was a good forum.
Yes.
Where the two parties decided what the problem was good for the union.
Okay.
If you have any problem that have cropped up, it is not from Fumba.
Yes.
It is not from the 1961 Constitution.
Okay.
It is the bad faith of Amado. He didn't believe at any time in federation. He didn't believe in democracy. He didn't believe in sharing power. And that is what led to what took place in May 1972.
Okay, but if I look at the 1961 Constitution, especially we have spoken very much about Article 47, which was enough safeguard. I mean, Article 47 basically prohibited any form of changing the structure of the nation from anything other than a federation. And then minus that, even inside the Federal Assembly, if there was a bill that was even supported by 100% of the East Cameroon Assembly members, if 2/3 of the minority West Cameroonian parliamentarians did not support it, it would not pass.
Perfectly, perfectly. And that you can even begin from where I hate you from the very first time when he visits, on his maiden visit, to Southern Cameroon. When he visits in his speeches at Tico, at Boya, and at Victoria, repeatedly he says, we are meeting as equals, we are meeting as brothers.
Yes.
That means he was co-equal. And even if you take the negotiations that took place at the Bermuda All-Party Conference and at the Fullman Constitutional Conference, it was always with this feeling that this thing of minority does not even arise. Otherwise, if you say, what does Cameroon stand when it goes to the United Nations and is talking with America or with China? You don't take the sides. You speak in terms of autonomous states. Okay. It's not your size that matters, it's your individuality. So the agreement, as you have said by Article 47.1, was that anything could change, but nothing should touch
the federation.
But that's what Ahidjo pushed aside when it pleased him. And as you pointed out, of the 50 members in the Federal House, 10 were Southern Cameroonians, or call it the West Cameroon at the time, and 40 were our brothers from the Republic of Cameroon.
Okay.
And in any resolution, you just needed half plus 1. You know, if out of the 10 West Cameroonians, I mean, if, no, let me say, if all of the 40 Republic of Cameroon or East Cameroonians, call it East Cameroon, voted for a resolution, and shall we say that is half? No, let me call it. Half of 10 is 5. Yes. 6 plus 1 was good enough to topple the majority on the other side. So that was a safety device that I thought was very wonderfully worked out. And this was carried over from Nigeria.
You know, I have not been able to understand how come, even if Ahidjo came into the reunification and accepted the federal structure, which controlled part of most of his power, even if he came into bad faith, how did it happen that the Southern Cameroon political structure that we talk so much about, its accountability, its democratic principles, could have punctured to the way that Ahidjo penetrated and got away with exactly what they wanted and even more than what they wanted?
Yeah, I think you'll find quite a bit of that in the volume I have here. I talk, call it very exclusively about it. When we talk about Ahidjo is not one person.
Okay, so all system.
Ahidjo is Ahidjo as an individual, together with all the French advisors. If you take the Constitution, whether you talk about the Federal Constitution or the Unitary Constitution, it was drawn by French experts, like Maurice Duvergier and who's the other one. There are two of them two specialists, experts in writing of constitutions who, apart from this, there was a whole lot, a big group of people who were there advising them. So Ahidjo was not one person.
Okay.
But we are talking about Ahidjo, we are talking of somebody who failed the first school living certificate, repeated and passed. So I don't think that intelligence we granted is what it deserves.
Well, and I've spoken to some francophones. When I say francophones, you know what I mean. Francophones, political elites, and who really believe that it was a very big mistake for 1972 to occur 20th May 1972. But with all what is coming out of the Anglophone side about all the agitations and the way things are being presented, they seem to accuse Anglophone intellectuals and Anglophone political elites of the nowadays of intellectual dishonesty.
If you are talking of post-1972, maybe what you are saying will be applicable. Okay. But if you are talking of whatever took place from 1961 until 1972, I find that inapplicable, because if you just flash back to the Ahidjo period in power, could you take your finger up against Ahidjo? You and myself, I think we were there. You could not lift your finger.
Well, but Ahidjo got there through something. Yes. To have such powers.
Yes.
Because first of all, we know about us giving in to Ahidjo in 1966 to abolish the multi-party system. What happened?
That is what you have in the papers. That is what the books say. But just look back to the records. And as I talk to you, I can still see an article in 1964, 62. No, 64, 65. There was this move by the KNDP and the CPNC to come together, because the idea at the time was that they should move, in meeting Ahidjo, they should go as one people, one group. And so the KNDP and the CPNC were coming together. And Ahidjo warned that what they were doing was against national unity. So So national unity had to be in its own interpretation, not as you saw it, but as Ahidjo saw it. And what took place in 1966 is far from being everybody giving in to the CNU. That is untrue. Very, very untrue. When you go into studying and reading what took place, it was forming the party at gunpoint. Okay. Because before that, just you reflect, there was the CUC. That's the party which was formed by ST Mona. A breakaway from the KNDP. Okay. But you want to see how the CUC came about. It was all Ahidjo's machinations to undermine the KNDP, weaken it because the KNDP had become, after the plebiscite, the plebiscite won very massively, and then in the elections of October 1961, they still won very massively. So the KNDP was becoming too powerful, and that was not what Ahidjo wanted. So he wanted to weaken it. I'm coming back to 1966. Yes. So the first thing was to break up the KNDP, stop the KNDP and the CPNC coming together. And then once you divided the KNDP, the first thing was to absorb the CUC. Okay. So the KNDP was standing on one leg. And I'm sure that's one reason why they wanted to really to combine with the CPNC.
So from what you are saying, something definitely went wrong with the Southern Cameroon or West Cameroon or whatever we call it today, bloc, political bloc, that gave an opening for Ahidjo to penetrate.
There's a lot of that. That is true. Again, you ask one short question, which needs a very long answer. Yeah, because as you will find out, after the October 1961 elections, the CPNC lost quite much, and they were already over taking place between Ndele and Ahidjo. And Ndele was the first person to start talking about the fact that Cameroon should have one party, a single party, yes, in which all talents could be used. Of course, he was the man who had a lot of talents. Yes. The CPNC had a lot of talents. And they were being left out just because of elections which they had lost. So he was one of the first persons to start talking of a single party. But he was talking of a single party in his own understanding, democratic understanding of a single party. Okay. And when finally he discovered what was happening, it was already late. Okay. Yeah. And what do I have to say again? So you have a situation in which 1966, Ahidjo was talking of all the parties coming together. Why doesn't anybody ask where his own opposition was? Even at Fumba.
To a crush.
There was, by the time they came to Fumba alone, and all the four political leaders in the opposition were behind bars. They were put behind bars, and when they tried to appeal, the sentences were doubled and the penalties as well doubled.
I don't know, I've not read your book.
Yes.
But there's a part that I think, because I'm seeing something here when you talk of those people locked up, and it takes us now to UPC.
Yes, UPC.
And there's 1962, did you treat the 1962 act that was passed that gave Ahidjo absolute power because of to fight terrorism?
Yes, I think
which is a thing that is part of what got so much fear in people, and even people like Fontaine, don't you think so?
Yes, a lot of fear. You have people like, and then somebody who knew him a lot more, like Moko. Okay. Moko knew who were dealing with it. Maybe Foncha, Mona, and they don't know him as much as these others do. Because it's that 1972 law, which gives him powers. He overturns everything, and then he rules. He has control over. That's what he uses to incarcerate those leaders. And know, of course, that in 1961, he took constitutional powers and ruled without parliament for 6 months. In 1972, after a declaration of the unity state, he again ruled for 1 year without parliament.
Yes.
So there were these powers which he accumulated on himself. And of course,
and now because of the fear of terrorism.
And that gave him all, beginning from the French, that gave him all the power. And powers which I think are still there now.
That's right.
They are maybe not in whole, but they are very much still there. You have powers given to the president.
Not that there should, don't you think there should be more than what Ahijo had?
Well,
at least Ahijo, if we are talking about 1972, even if it was mechanization, he gave a semblance of constitutional respect because he did not sit in his office and change the name of the country like it's been done now. He at least made a semblance of going to the people to vote. You see what I'm saying? So it's worse than it is, don't you think?
When he wanted to change a thing, he first changed the law.
Yes, he changed it.
So that he acted according to the law.
Yes.
He always acted, I should say, always acted within the law.
Even if it's true intimidation,
he
uses the law.
He used the law.
Yes.
What he did even to imprison the 4 opposition leaders was the law. The emergency powers.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken, around May 1962. That's what he used.
Okay.
And those powers were still there. And they came from the French. The fact that they were fighting the UPC, and Ahijo himself never believed in reunification. That was not. He borrowed it from, or even plagiarized it, took it away from it. Was a UPC.
And that's what is interesting, which I was coming to ask you now. Because when we look at the politics of the French and the majority Francophone Cameroonian politicians, we seem to group them all with the populists. And if we look at it, it's paradoxical that a group like the UPC that was banned was being alienated and sent away and persecuted in Cameroon would be the one that championed reunification, which to me shows some kind of nationalist spirit. I'm just coming from Umbiebe, where I met with the widow of Umbiebe. So what I'm trying to ask you now, is it fair?
It's Umbiebe and the family, the widows there.
Okay, great.
Yes, go on.
So is it fair for because it seems as if there have been periods in our political history, whether it's national integration or non-national integration, that the Francophones too, who don't have the power to effect any change, have been looking up to the Southerners and Anglophones. I can take the period, the heavy campaign of the people who have spiked anything that has to do with Cameroon government, but they campaign from the back to bring their brothers back together.
That's what they stood for at Fumban.
Yes. And then now again, I can think of 1990 with the clamor of challenging the single party system. Most of us who had contact with the Francophone Cameroonians, all of them were praying and looking up to Bamenda and the Anglophones to come and rescue them as recent as 1990. And the results of the presidential election of 1992 demonstrate that, because even if all Anglophones voted for Fumi, he would have not arrived
at that point.
Numerical.
So is it that?
Yes.
Both sides.
He did both sides. Yes. And it was very obvious that majority of Francophones, even those who were leaving the party in power, were joining to support an Anglophone to be president. So do you think that we, the Anglophones, are being a little bit unjust when we bring out this generalized label on the Francophones, without seeing ourselves as partly liberators of even the struggling away from their own
when you say this first, I think you have to evaluate how much we are talking about the majority, the bulk of the people. How many know anything of historical past? In fact, if you take that one put together, the Anglophones even are more conscious, they are more knowledgeable of what went into constituting Southern Cameroon and what went into constituting the Federal Republic of Cameroon. If you are talking of the Francophones, I think very few know anything about Cameroon history. So the question you have asked is very highly loaded in that the knowledge, that's one of the things which drove me to write what I've written. That when I walk the streets and listen to people talk about what happened, even I said Anglophones are knowledgeable, but they know very little. The Francophones know far smaller than the knowledge is so negligible compared to that of the Anglophones. That's why they keep seeing Anglophones as a minority group, as a tribe, as a section. They don't see us as people who enjoyed internal autonomy for so many years. So when we are talking of Anglophones and Francophones and thinking of the numbers, I would rather say we should think of the elite, those who know something of our history. That's not me.
Would you credit, outside of our generation, would you credit the current Anglophone generation, the young ones, of having that kind of knowledge still or dedication to what we perceive or the story that we are telling? I can give you an example that even right here in Bamenda, it's not long ago that a person like Mukong Kamde Tumazam died. Then you can ask some of these young people, they've never heard, they will not even care who those people are.
It's much worse. Much worse. I think we have a lot of work to do. And that is actually why I wanted to write this, because the past is being eroded, is being corrupted. There are a lot of conspiracy theories. People just imagine things and say that this is what happened. And those imaginations now take proportions of concrete reality and become history, which actually are not a reality. So from what you have just, that's true, perfectly true. I think the young generation, when we are talking of Cameroon 50 years after, the young generation don't know anything about the past.
And they don't seem to care.
And they don't, it will take good work to get them to know.
How many people do you think go through, one of the things that excited me was to stop at Liberty Square, here, right down here.
Yes.
And how many people even have the time to commemorate one?
Very few, very few. I think, I don't know, part of this may be the culture of the time I hit where everything was suppressed. Now, since the 1990 liberty laws, people are able to write, to read, and to talk, but I think a lot of the harm had already been done.
There seems to be more noise than substance.
Yes, more noise.
I mean, not something like this. No. How many people run and hunt to get
very few. Very few. And I think Kochu was right, when we had these liberty laws. Why do you suppress the people? Let them talk. They will talk, and the thing will just fade into the air. They talk to themselves.
Yes.
Like exhaust, like volcanoes, they empty all the venom and nobody listens to everything. So the modern generation, the present generation, I think they are not tuned into our past. They don't understand where we are coming from. And if you don't understand where we are coming from, you don't know where you are, you can't say where you are going to.
Exactly.
I think that's the type of situation which we face.
So what would happen is Southern Cameroon still looking for independence, and you think that's the right choice, even what must have happened?
that's where I take the different strands. My argument is that this country belongs to all of us. The triangle, the rough triangle we have, came from German annexation on 14th July 1884. They brought together something like 300 ethnic groups, put them together into a country they call Cameroon. And they rolled it as one until 1914 when war broke out, 1915 when they were defeated. And then you have the partition in 1922. So, in fact, let me just make this point, because there is, Umyobe himself said it, he wanted Cameroon to be one as it was under the Germans. Cameroon as it was up to 1914 was a huge country, the size of Nigeria, almost equal to Nigeria. Because in 1911, because of some disagreements between France and Germany, which were the agreements actually were in Morocco, but they were settled by France cutting its own territory and adding to German Cameroon. So that increased Cameroon territory by a good part of half. So by 1914, Cameroon was bigger, a lot bigger than anything you can think of. And so you are talking of bringing Cameroon together. Where do you leave that one? Because that was part.
Well, is it Adamawa, the state?
Okay, yes, not Cameroon. Yes. So if you take that argument, when you begin to argue, and then you have a francophone saying, as Ahiju said, that a small part of our the territory that belongs to us has come back. That's talking about Southern Cameroon. We forgot that the bigger part is there in Central African Republic, is there in Gabon, is there in Congo Brazzaville, which are all which should be part of Cameroon. Exactly. So are Southern Cameroonians being punished for having opted to join the Francophone brothers as it was under Germany?
Well, that's the question we'll continue to explore.
Yeah, so I think, I don't know, this only complicates what I was trying to point out to you, that we are talking of two parts coming together, and these two parts joined together as co-equals. So it's not a question of, I mean, it's like in a marriage.
Yes.
I mean, your wife may be class 7, you may be a PhD holder, but once you marry, you're in a union.
Yes.
Equal, co-equal. You can't say because I am here. The law is that, you know, you share everything in half, 50-50. So, I don't know whether how much I've deviated from your question, but there are so many things.
No, you've done very well. I think even, and I thank you for taking the time to document these things, which we have a lot of people who go to their grave with volumes of our information, and I just appreciate every person who takes the time to document our history. And I want to thank you, Prof, for taking the time to talk to me. We are rushing to Manfred, and I hope I will stop by to say hello before we continue back.
Thank you very much. I wish you just hinted me that we are going to have this interview. Maybe I would have.
No, you don't. You did very well. I don't think you did. Everything's in your head.
Yeah. My wish is that you find time to read, but there are many things in there that we still don't know. And this came out in the declassified document.
If I saw your book, the thing is that if your book was on Amazon, I would have bought it already. Because I have a project that I try to support works like this. I buy at least 1 or 2 books every month written by Cameroonians, especially on this topic on national integration.
So we look up to you because this was all done out of, without any...
I do every month. I make sure I buy a book written by Cameroonian.
Okay.
But that is...
I think that's the other way. I hope that with that we get our people... No, what I was saying actually is that we all have equal patrimony to this country.
Exactly.
I don't see Cameroon in terms of splitting away. That is wrong the battlefield.
Yeah.
Stand there and fight for your lives.
Like you said here, the integration through unity in diversity.
Yes.
We have the autonomy within ourselves, but we collaborate. There are many successful examples like that. The US, like you talked of Canada, and all that. So
and talk of Germany, which
nothing says that Southern Cameroon will be perfect, right?
It was nearly perfect. So I think that is the way to go.
Yes.
Not escaping, standing there, fight and get your rights.
Exactly.
I mean, like you find quotations by Asongani.
Okay.
He said, we may have this problem we have with the Anglophones, but the only person who will save Cameroon, even Cameroon unity, is an Anglophone.
That's true. That's true. And I don't know, we shy away my theory, and I don't want to belabor this very much, especially since many people don't want to discuss difficult things. Anybody who is talking Southern Cameroon's independence or union or whatever would never achieve anything if he doesn't really take into reality and honest, intellectual honesty to know that what has happened to Cameroon is because somebody saw a hole in our level of political collaboration. I am not talking about the existence of our people that we can either choose, we can marry and all that. Those things don't make decisions for our lives politically. The lack of political collaboration is what led Ahidjo to even do what he did in 1962.
You have to create it,
yes,
and you exacerbated what
he used to very much because they looked for that window. Like even the dismantling of KNDP would never have happened if we did not have that speed. There is one thing recently that occurred to us that we show. Right now there is nothing that Southern Cameroons or these two provinces that they are today representing Southern Cameroons cannot attain, no matter what has been done, cannot attain in this country politically if they come together.
That's it. That's what happened.
Yes. It happened with the GC board. Yes. The government about no thing. Southern Cameroons came together. No matter whether there was CPDM or whatever, they said no. The minister had to come together. When he said that over his dead body. So let's not keep beating around it. There's no answer.
There is a question of Boya.
Exactly. So we know the answers to this thing. All these things that we move around now, and the sad thing is that even the SCNC, the Southern Cameroon's struggle that we started, that I love so much, has become now the most intolerant political. Yes. So thank you so much.
We look up to you.
Thank you, Lord.
I believe that if any change is going to take place, it will be the diaspora. It will be people like you.
Because there's a lot of ignorance. We are trying, but the diaspora is worse.
It's worse.
I'm telling you. All these things, diaspora is what we are trying. We'll try to come up with something. Yeah. It's because we are so divided in ethnic group.
Oh,
that's what is becoming in diaspora. Because the diaspora is not like it used to be that people went to study. We have people who are coming
with agenda.
Even people who are selling things on the street can get a visa and come for abroad. So when they come there in the community, everybody, you can come in 3 months, you buy a car, you don't go to school, you don't expand your mind, you don't like tolerance. So we come now and start fighting on little things.
And somebody sent out there just to diffuse, to make sure that...
Exactly. So we'll keep trying with little things like this. We keep planting a little seed. Maybe
my view from history is that for as long as there's one person who keeps saying, when you say this thing is not right.
Yes.
If there's no one person who keeps saying this thing is not right, these people are unfairly treated. The problem will continue. Maybe it will take. We are just giving an example of what Britain. Today we are talking of Scotland. Scotland is on the verge of getting autonomy, total autonomy from Britain. After how many 100 years, Britain suppressed and suppressed and suppressed. But finally Scotland is on the way to getting autonomy. The same thing with Ireland, the same thing with Wales, and that goes to many other countries.
That's true.
So,
well, thank God, we have to rock. Thank you so much.
Oh, yes. Well, we will look up to you if there's anything you can do to help us.
We'll try.
Yes.